So good morning. As I was just saying, we're going to be looking at learning outcome 2. Now this unit is quite a long unit. We've got 6 learning outcomes. Yesterday we looked at learning outcome 1, where it was all about yourselves. You were looking at your own strengths and weaknesses. You were going to set targets for yourself. And for the merit question, it was to create a personal development plan, with your targets and how you were going to achieve them and what sort of timeline you were going to use. So learning outcome 1 is about you. Bless you. Learning outcome 2 is know how to research information using primary and secondary methods. So for 2.1, it says describe the process for carrying out primary research from different sources. Now these two questions are very similar. 2.2 is outline the process for carrying out secondary research from different sources. So the first is about primary, second is about secondary. And then 2D1 is analyze with examples what constitutes good practice in primary and secondary research. So for this section, you're going to be adding in a primary research example, a secondary research example, and telling me what is good about it, what is bad about it, and if it's any good at finding out what you want to find out. And again, like I always point out, you probably get bored of this by now. We've got the indicative content at the bottom, just giving you an idea of what type of things we needed. Now, this is fantastic actually, because it really just gives you the answers here. It tells you what type of research is for primary, tells you what sort of type of research is for secondary, so it cuts out a lot of the legwork when you're doing your assignments. So if you do have a bit of a noisy background, please mute yourself, and then if you need to ask a question, you're very welcome to unmute and join in. Now, this PowerPoint is a bit of a long one, but the information in here is you'll see as we go through it. So again, we were talking about yesterday the unit aim. I'll just go over it because a few of you were not here yesterday. The aim of this unit is to develop your academic and research skills and the language skills needed to be able to formally present academic research in writing and orally, so speaking. Now, when we look at research skills, now the next few slides are a bit of a generic overview of what primary research is and what secondary and tertiary research are. Now, when we're looking at research, we actually look at our own competency skills, our own capability. We look at what sort of understanding we have for ourselves, so we know what we're capable of actually researching and how much we can take on. We look at our own functional skills, so you look at your own IT, your maths, your English, and base your research off in that type of standard. You look at your SWOT, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and we've done this a few times over a few units. PDP stands for Personal Development Plan. And then we've got a few websites where you can test your own skills. So BBC bitesize.com, I actually quite like Bitesize because it's got a whole load of different skills and things you can actually go on, math, science, English. And then we also have worksheetworks.com, which is a good site to go on if you just want to have a bit of a see how you are with your own skills. Now, we've got primary research. I'm just going to go on to here and show you this video first. Let me play that. So that was just a little video about the primary research, how it can be done, and what sort of benefits there are and what sort of disadvantages there can be. So benefits are that because it's focused on exactly what you want to find out. So if you were trying to collect data about, say, diabetes, childhood diabetes, you can focus your research particularly on that because you're the person that is conducting that research and that's your aim to find out. So you're able to just focus it, get the results you want, the answers that you're looking for, and you're done. But it's very time consuming because the information is not already out there. You're having to do everything from scratch and it could possibly cost a lot of money. So you're taking time away from work or other tasks, or you're paying for people to come in and sit down and going through focus groups and interviews like this person was just saying a moment ago. So we've got some examples of research here. Now, we've got a picture of a biography. So you may know from Anne Frank. She's a young Jewish girl that was being persecuted in the Second World War by the Nazis. So she had to hide up in an attic, and she did survive, and she did write a journal, a biography about what happened to her. So this is secondary research. So this happened after her experiences. Then you've got some other examples of primary, so like articles, newspapers. Tertiary and primary, this is a book. So this is written about, somebody's written it themselves, but they've also summarized the information. So when we look at primary as a recap, I'd like to let you know what they are. Primary is research that you conduct as a fresh research. It's something that you start to find out something that's focused on your topic. So it's you focusing a particular research, finding out new information all by yourself. Secondary research is research that has already happened, but it might have happened for a different purpose. Now, even though it's already taken place, sometimes you can use that secondary research and apply it to your own research. So this has already been done. Tertiary research actually comes off secondary research. What this means is that it just summarizes the research that has already taken place in secondary sources. So it just cuts it down and it makes it brief, and it just shows you in simple sentences what this actually means, or a simple article, what this secondary research is about. So primary research again could be Anne Frank. She's talking about her experiences as they're happening. When we talked about Anne Frank before, saying that it was secondary, that was when she'd looked back at she's looked back and written a biography, or someone has written a biography about her from her diaries that she wrote. Then we've got graphs that you can, conduct research on. You've gone out, you've done a focus group, you've looked at different types of research, and you've put all your information into a graph. And then secondary research again is, say, is a book on the history of television. So it's just telling you somebody's already made this research, they've collated it for you. You can go in and you can have a look at that. And then secondary, somebody's done some film reviews. So they've watched a film, they've reviewed it. You're looking at the review saying, oh, this film is good, this film is bad, so on. And then you're forming your own judgment from there. Then a few newspapers. They can be secondary, tertiary, and primary, so a mix of information in these. You've got some magazines. Like I get a magazine from the Society of Education and Training on a monthly basis, and that has articles in it. It has research that people have conducted before. It's got just information about how to do particular things, so it's a mix of information in that. Primary, just a note somebody's written. And then finally on this section, we've got primary sources again, as a recap, our original materials. Secondary sources are things that have already been written after something has happened. And then tertiary is like a recap of the information, so summarize a summary of the information that's been done. So before we go into the questions, I just want to show you this video here. Again, it's only a couple of minutes long. And it just tells you about what secondary research is. It's nice, it cuts the information down. Wait for this advert to go away.
Hello?
One more, please. Are you okay?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
hear you, that's right.
Okay, it's just the video. Can you hear the video?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at the video for a couple of minutes. It's about, we looked at primary research, now we're just looking at secondary. So it's only about it's about 3 minutes long. Yeah, brilliant. So that was just looking at secondary research, what the benefits are, what the disadvantages are, and we'll make our way on to. So for today's aim, we're actually going to be looking at 3 different assessment criteria. Now, they're all put in together. So we're going to be looking at in the following slides. 2.1, describe the process for carrying out primary research from different sources. 2.2, outline the process for carrying out secondary research from different sources. And 2D1, oops, excuse me. That was a bit of fun music there. And then 2D1, analyze with examples what constitutes good practice in primary and secondary research. So when we look at primary research, we're looking at questionnaires, observations. So you might go into a workplace, you might go into an area, and you might even, say if you're in a shop and you want to see how many females walk into a particular shop and what their ages might be, what sort of age range they're in. You might just stand in one area and you'll see, right, there's 5 females came in, but there were 10 males that came in. You know, or how many people buy a particular biscuit with their coffee. So you'd stand there and you observe it. You got interviews, so you might interview certain people and ask them particular questions depending on what your area of research is. You might do a survey where you'd have a survey created online or paper survey and ask people to fill out their own opinions. You contact people on the telephone. You could do an online survey. You could do a focus group. And then over here, we've got a bit of information. Now, this is a bit of information about finding out how many people live in the M1 area of what types of people live in the M1 area, so city centre of Manchester. So you'd observe the population there. You'd see what sort of ethnic groups are there. Is it a mixed ethnic group? Is it not a mixed group? Are they lower middle class? Are they higher class? Are they upper class? Are they working class? So you'd look at the different type of people. So for this type of research, you've decided to look at the people that live within the city centre of Manchester, and you've looked at a few different factors on here. Now, when we go into secondary research, yeah?
Hello?
Hi?
Yeah, is this a learning outcome 2 or 3?
This is a learning outcome 1. Sorry, this is learning outcome 2, yes.
Unit 2, right?
Yes, we did learning outcome 1 yesterday.
Okay. So this Unit 2. You are into Unit 2 or Unit 3?
We're on the academic research skills unit.
That is Unit 3, is it?
Yes.
What about the Unit 2?
So is it just over?
Yeah.
Yes, thought so. We've actually started because you were missing learning outcome because the students that are already on the unit have done this. They've actually done communications just recently. They've just finished that unit. So to make sure that all of you are doing the unit that you needed, we're doing academic research now, and then I'll catch up with the communication unit for you after we've done this one.
So which means this is not the right group for me to join in.
No, it's because you were studying elsewhere earlier, they had a particular order that they were following. Because all of these units are standalone, we don't actually follow a particular order. So some people have started off with the person-centered approach, which was Unit 2 for you. Other people have started off with this unit being their first. Some people started off with communications, which was Unit 3 for you. But it's been their first unit because they're all standalone units. We don't actually teach them in a fixed context. What we do is we have a rolling process where new students will get added on, and then they'll go on from the units that need to be taught currently. So everybody goes through all 4 units, but we've not got a fixed process of, we've not got a fixed way that they're taught. So everybody's going to make sure that they get the units that need. So the next unit that you need after this one, because you needed academic research and communication, but because this group of students have already just finished communications, what I'll do is I'll go back to you later and we'll do a communication unit with you and the students that may not have done it yet.
So should I log out then?
No, you stay on because you need this.
Yeah, but I missed it yesterday as well. Just like I'm a bit confused of it because I didn't start from scratch, you know.
We've got a recording for yesterday, so you should be able to catch up with. A lot of the students were not with us yesterday. Only had 2 students here, so a lot of you did miss yesterday's unit. But because it's nice, yesterday's learning outcome, because it's a nice, simple one. Go back, listen to the recording. If you get struggle, or if you want a one-to-one tutorial, just email me and I'll do a quick 20-minute tutorial with you to go over the information again.
All right.
Yeah, but just it's on the WhatsApp group. Have you got access to the WhatsApp group?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So just look at that link. If you see that you've not got the link there, I put it on yesterday morning around about 10:40, I think. So just click on that link, listen to it. If you still need more information, just to get back to me, yeah. But no, stay for this one because this is the one you need to do next. And then after you've done this one, I'll get you to do your communications.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. So as I was saying, secondary research is things like textbooks, encyclopedias, newspapers, any sort of articles that might be reviewed. So a film that might have been reviewed, a book that's like any reviews, books, magazines, trade journals, and the internet. That's all secondary research. Then we look at primary research versus secondary research. So again, what sort of differences are there? So primary is focused. It gives you the results you're looking for because you're doing it. So you can get focus groups, you can have surveys or interviews, but it can cost a lot of money. Secondary research is already there. It can either be free or it can be quite cheap to do. But you've not got the results that you want to be focused. You might have to tweak them or you might have to do a bit more research to find out the exact information you're looking for. Then we've got primary research. Again, it's something that you do yourself or you get someone to do for you. You might get a colleague or somebody or make a team member to go and directly find out information. They might go to your customers, they might go to your service users, your patients, family members, and they might ask them questions and gather information. So examples of this again are interviews. You can do it over the phone or face-to-face. You have surveys, which are via online or you post a survey out. Or even if they're next to you, you might say, would you mind filling this quick survey in? And they'll give you the piece of paper when they're done. Questionnaires. So again, you can do that online or face-to-face or via the mail. Focus groups. So this focus groups actually normally happen when there's a new product that's been launched and they want to find out what people might think. So if you've got a new biscuit or a new drink that's just been launched, you don't know what people think about it yet. So you're going to get people to come in, random people, and you're going to let them taste the biscuit or taste the drink, and they're going to tell you their views and that, yes, I think this is good or I don't think it's good. They'll give you their honest views. And then you can also visit your competitor's place of work. So if you work in a care home in one particular area, you might go to another one just to see what is their front desk like, what sort of uniforms do their staff members wear, what is the cleanliness like. So you're going there and gathering the information yourself. So when you're looking at primary research, you're actually looking at two basic kinds of information. So you're doing exploratory. So you're getting exploratory information. This is general and it's open-ended information. It normally has a lot of interviews that are going on, or you're looking at individuals, or you're looking at small groups, but it's very open-ended. So you ask a question and you could really get any type of answer. It could be very vague, it could be very focused. Specific is that this research is more precise and it's actually used to solve a problem identified in the exploratory research. It's more structured and it's got more formal interviews. So if you've gone in and you've asked a particular question and you've realized I'm not getting the answer that I actually want. So what you do is you go back after that and you think, right, maybe the question I asked wasn't as specific as it needed to be. So you go in, you tweak your questions and you change them, and then you lead towards the answers that you actually need. So primary research normally costs more, which I've said a couple of times now. It takes longer to conduct than secondary research. but it gives you the results, more conclusive results. So it's actually more focused on what you're trying to find out. So it's giving you the right results. And then we've got secondary research. Now, secondary research is a type of research that's already been gathered. It's already happened. It's there for you. So somebody else has done all this research. They've put it together and it's already there. So like I said, it's things like textbooks, news articles, books, magazines, trade journals, any of those type of information. So a lot of the secondary research is available on the internet. So you can just go on and type in a particular sentence or some words and you'll get some information. Like when we go in and we're looking at all the, for person-centered approach, when we were doing that unit, we were looking at legislations like the CARE Act, the 6 Cs. All we had to do is go in, type 6 Cs in healthcare, and it would come up with a list. It would come up with exactly what the 6 Cs are. It'll come up with what different type of images that you can use. So that information is already there for you. So the next couple of slides, we're actually going to look at some examples of how to conduct research. So you'll see the next slides are just examples of questionnaires and surveys. Now, when you're doing primary research, because secondary research has already been done there for you, so all you need to do is go on the internet, open a book and find out, just read through certain things. But primary research, you actually need to design something to be able to find out what you need to know. So here is a process of how to design a questionnaire. So when we go from the top, you specify the information that you needed. Specify the type of interviewing method. Are you doing it on the phone? Are you doing a focus group? Are you doing it face-to-face? Or is it on the internet? Determine the content of the individual question. So what are your questions? What is it about? Design the question to overcome the respondent's inability and unwillingness to answer. So what this means is keep it simple, keep it short, because when I've been asked questions, especially on something that I don't have to do, if I've gone out and someone's given me, oh, please fill out this survey for in a shop, I don't want to stand there and I don't want to don't want to read really long questions. I want them to be simple. I want them to be quick, because I might be busy, I might need to go somewhere else, or I might just not be bothered. I might not be willing to do it. I might say, why should I waste my time? So you've got to make sure that the questions are designed that somebody who might only have a couple of seconds to stand with you or do something with you, or might not even want to be there, will just say, oh, okay, they're simple, I can do them. Decide the question structure. So how are you going to structure your questions? Are you going to do the hard ones on the top, or are you going to do the simple ones on the top? How is this going to go? Look at the wording. Make sure you put it in a proper order, so you're asking questions that lead from one another. Put in a nice layout and then reproduce the questionnaire. So you made a questionnaire, you're going to want to either photocopy it, make loads of copies of it, or you're going to want to email it to people as attachments, or you're going to want to print loads of them out. And then we've got an interviewing method on questionnaire design. So this is, you might get some questionnaires that you get in the mail saying, can you please rank the order of the stores? So tell me which is the best, which is the worst. So this is what this one is here. So you've got a 12 telephone questionnaire where somebody will phone you and say from a point of 1 to 10. So for example, when I phone Sky, the TV services, I'll phone them and I'll say, right, I've got an issue with my internet. I can't, it's slow, or my TV, my Sky's not working, the connection's not there. So we'll have a talk. We'll do everything. We'll get it sorted out. And later on, I might get a text message or an automated phone call asking me to answer particular questions. And they might say, how was your customer service employee? Did they answer all your questions? Was your problem solved? So then you do a number 1 to 10 and so on. Nowadays, you're seeing a lot of this in text messages as well. Then you've got personal questionnaires. So it's where you might, have just like information written on it, and it'll say got your own name on top of it. It's got a card that you're going to keep with you. You've got a particular set of questions in it. So it just lets you, you've got a whole different, with the questionnaires, it doesn't really matter what the actual question is. The point is that you're getting the information that you want out of them. So again, electronic questionnaires, exact same thing, but you're just doing it over the internet. And then you've got individual question content, and is the question necessary? So if there's no satisfactory use, so if there is no reason for you to get a particular result, don't ask the question, cut that question out. If it's not of any use to you, if it's just a question there to make your questionnaire look a little bigger, cut it out because it's just a waste of time. And then here are some questions that you can ask. So can you ask more? If you want one answer, should you ask more than one thing? How many questions should you get asked to ask one answer? So sometimes you need several questions to get the information. So would you ask, do you think Coca-Cola is tasty and refreshing and soft drink? That's a bit too long because somebody will say yes or no. Then instead of that, you could have a double-barreled question. So this is where two questions into one. So you're getting the one answer that you want, but you're using two questions to do it. So to get this information, you would say, do you think Coca-Cola is a tasty soft drink? And do you think Coca-Cola is a refreshing soft drink? Because you're asking too many things over here. So it just helps you get the answer that you actually need. So you'll find out if somebody thinks it's tasty, and if somebody thinks it's refreshing. Because over here, somebody could say yes, but you don't know, are they saying it's tasty or are they saying it's refreshing? So overcoming the inability to answer, so make sure that your respondent, the person that's actually filling the questionnaires in, that they're actually informed. So not all, like I was saying, sometimes I'll be in a particular shop or something, I'll get asked to fill in the questionnaire. I'll probably go out of my way to avoid people just to not be asked questions, because you know how it is when you're out and about, you really don't want to be bothered. You might be in a rush, you might just be in a phase of mind where you're really not in the mood to do anything, or you're just out to have a bit of fun. So you've got to try and do things in a way that even the most unwilling person will say, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine, we'll do it. So you've got to filter your questions. Make sure that there's some sort of familiarity and some sort of past experience that they can be asked about. So if I go into a sports shop and I'm asked about, what do you think the best golf club is? But I've never played golf. But if they come and they ask me what's a good type of football, I'll probably have a little bit of an idea, even if I don't play football, because it's something you're more familiar with. So just some examples of questions. How many gallons of soft drinks do you consume in the last 4 weeks? Then you could say, how many soft drinks do you have in a week? So if someone says how many gallons of soft drink I had in the last week, I wouldn't be able to tell them how many gallons, but I could probably tell them how many times I had a juice, or how many times I had water, or how many times I had a fizzy drink. So I'd probably say less than once per week, or somebody might say 7 or more times per week. Then you just tick the one. So you've got to do things that are easy for them to answer. And again, you look at it, give them pictures, give them maps, give them descriptions, things that they can use to articulate their answers. That's the same thing. So again, more unwillingness. So you're just looking at different things. So you'll go into a particular shop, you'll go and see, what sort of, you're going in, you want to see what sort of things people actually come in to purchase. So you wouldn't remember, when you're doing a questionnaire, you want people to do as little writing as possible, because if they're standing there and they're having to write out everything, it's going to be difficult for them. They're not going to want to do it. So if you've gone into a shop and someone gives you a piece of paper and a clipboard and said, right, tell me how many different departments you went into. You're not going to go and say, I went to the children's department, the homeware department, I went into the food and drink section, I went into the women's clothing, I looked at some jewelry, and then I looked at the shoes. You're not going to write all of those. You're going to be like, nah, I'm not doing it. But if it's already laid out for you, if you've got a list of all of these things here, someone can just go tick, 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 and they're done. A couple of ticks. Even if they're not telling you the truth, they'll probably just tick to get it over and done with. So you will get some type of information out of it. And then the whole point of me going over these questionnaires are these different types of questions are just to show you that there are many, many ways that you can do primary research. There are many ways that you can do secondary research. I mean, if you're doing primary, it's more time consuming. You've really got to think about what type of questions you're asking. You've got to think about it in your own way as well. Say, if I was in a particular place, if I was going for an appointment in the hospital, I'm sitting there for an x-ray and somebody gives me a big, long questionnaire, am I going to want to fill it out? So you've got to base it in that type of way. You've got to make sure the context of what you're asking them is correct, so that it is applicable to what questions you want to find out, what answers you need. So make sure you're not asking about, did you enjoy the weather last Wednesday, when you're actually trying to find out how many times you visited the x-ray department. So make sure that the questions that you're asking are legitimate and that they are necessary towards the purpose of your research. Make sure that you're not asking about sensitive information. So you don't want to ask about somebody's age. You don't want to ask about their sexual orientation or their religion or their ethnicity, because it's something you don't need to know. I mean, if you do need to know the age group of what somebody is, you just go, normally you'd go 21 to 30 or 31 to 40, that type of age range is fine, because then they can tick what sort of group they're in, but they don't have to tell you the particular age. And then we're just going to look at choosing your questions. So before we carry on, is everyone okay with where I'm going? Do you understand what we're doing in this section?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. So we're going to look at actually making our questions structured or unstructured. Now, when we do unstructured questions, these are open-ended. They're questions that can really get any type of answer. So your person that, so if you come and ask me a question, you could say to me, do you intend to buy a new car within the next 6 months? And I'll be like, yes, I do. I do intend to buy a new car in the next 6 months. And that's it, I'm done. But you could say, what type of car do you intend to buy? When do you intend to buy it? And I could say, in the next 3 weeks or something. So that will be more structured. Then structured questions is something where you've actually got a set of responses that have already been set out for you. So it could be multi-purpose, it could be a scale. So you'd ask, on the scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to use Netflix per week? And then I'd probably say 10, because of me and my children, they're always on Netflix, there's something going on. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to eat ice cream in the next 3 days? And I'd probably say maybe 5. So you'd got a nice structured skill where you can actually ask multiple choice questions, or you can have a set of answers already formulated there where you can say they can tick A, B, or C, because that is one of the answers that you're looking for. It's easier to collate afterwards. So question structure, you've got a multiple choice here. So do you intend to buy a new car within the next 6 months? So definitely will not buy, probably will not buy, undecided, probably will buy, definitely will buy, and then other. So this is the type of structured question, rather than saying, do you intend to buy a car in the next 6 months, and someone just writing yes. and that's it, you're not getting any information, then this will hone it down a little bit more. So probably they're thinking about it, definitely, yes, they are going to be buying one. Probably will not buy that, they're like, nah, maybe, maybe not. And definitely will not buy that, they're not thinking about it at all. Then dichotomous questions. So a dichotomous question has only got two responses. You've got two alternatives. So you've got a yes or a no, or a agree or a disagree, or sometimes even a don't know. So you get two alternatives. So you can have a neutral alternative like no opinion or don't know, and both or none with this. So you could have, do you intend to buy a car within the next 6 months? So yes, no, or don't know, and that's it. That's basic information you're getting. So you don't know how serious they are, that yes, they're thinking about it, yes, they're definitely going to buy it. So, but these are just nice fixed answers here. And then scales, like I was saying, when I've, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think you will do? Or a 1 to 5, will you do this or that? So do you intend to buy a new car within the next 6 months? And then you've got 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, and you circle the one that you actually think. So it's just a nice, so the same question can be asked in so many different ways. So you can have it as an open-ended question, you can have it as a structured question, you could have it as a scale, you could have it as dichotomous, where you're just having yes, no, or don't know. And then when we're looking at these, we're actually thinking about what wording we want to use. So you're going to look at the 6 W's. So who, what, where, when, and why, and the way. So the 6 W's. So when you're looking at this particular question here, which brand of shampoo do you use? That's not a good question to ask. So which brand or brands of shampoo have you personally used at home during the last month? And then you would put, in case of more than one brand, please list all the brands that apply. So you've asked, because I know in my house we use 3 or 4 different brands of shampoo. Whatever is available, we've got it. There's a couple of different types that we use. So I'd find it hard-pressed to put down which brand I use, because there's a few. But here I've got a choice to put multiple ones down. And then another option is, do you think the distribution of soft drinks is adequate? So somebody asked me that question, I'd be like, what? What do you mean? How would I know if the distribution of soft drinks is adequate? That's off the top of my head, that is what I would think. But if I got this question, do you think soft drinks are readily available when you want to buy them? I'd say yes, they are. I can pop to the corner shop, to the newsagents, I can go into Tesco's or Asda, and I'm able to buy whichever type of soft drink I want. There's multiple varieties. So I find this question easier to answer. Remember, if you have any questions, please do, or if you've got any comments, you'd like to add anything, please do jump in. And then again, just like different types of wording. So the next few slides are just looking at different type of wordings and so on. When we're looking at setting a questionnaire, now, the reason we're talking about questionnaires a lot is because later on in this unit, you will be doing a research project. And within that, you can, lay out a questionnaire that you might ask. An example of one questionnaire that you might use to get primary research. So this is fantastic for later on within that. And it's also giving you very good examples of how much time and effort goes into doing primary research. So which was leading on to time consuming and how costly they can be. Now, when we're doing these, you've got to make sure that you avoid leading or biasing questions. So you don't want to lead a question to an answer that you want. So an example, there's a couple of examples, incorrect and incorrect like earlier. So this example is, do you think that patriotic Americans should buy important automobiles when that would put American labor out of work? So yes, no, don't know. Or do you think that Americans should buy important automobiles? Yes, no, don't know. Now, what I see wrong in the top one is you're making them look guilty. You're putting them on the spot. So when you're saying, do you think Americans should buy imported automobiles? That's a nice, generic, safe question. But when you're saying that patriotics or people that are very Americanized, they're very proud of their country, should you buy cars that will put American people out of work? So that's going to, if I was there, I'd be like, oh, if I say yes here, that might make me look bad. So I'm definitely going to say no. You know, so it's just you're leading that person because maybe you want no to be the answer. And then you're leading them toward that by making them feel a little bit guilty. So that is what we mean by leading questions. Then we've got to make sure that we don't use, you know, implicit alternatives. So alternative is something that's not explicitly expressed in the opinions, or it's an implicit alternative. So something like, do you like to fly when traveling short distances? Or do you like to fly when traveling short distances, or would you rather drive? So what you're saying is you're only going a short distance. Why are you flying? So you're giving them like an implicit, you know. But on here, you're giving them another alternative. You said, do you like flying short distances, or do you prefer to drive? So they can say, I like to fly, or I prefer to drive. And then we've got assumptions here. So are you in favor of a balanced budget, which is incorrect, or are you in favor of a balanced budget if it would result in an increase in personal income tax? So these questions shouldn't be worded in a way that you're assuming something and you're looking at a particular consequence that's going to happen. So you should try and keep them nice and balanced, so you're not putting somebody on the spot. And then you don't ask generalized questions. So because remember, you're spending a lot of time and effort to find out about a particular research project. So again, it could be anything. I've had in the past where I've marked assignments where students have done, like I mentioned earlier, the increase in childhood diabetes or childhood obesity. Or then we've got recently had a fantastic little research piece done on the impact of COVID-19 on nurses within the NHS. So it can be anything that you decide to do. It can be something generalized within your own, if you're working in a care home setting, something that is generalized within that type of patient care within care homes, or medicinal care and so on. So you just choose something that you like. You're looking at a particular research, but then you're spending a lot of time to try and do that research. You're putting a lot of time and effort into that research. So when you're making questionnaires, or when you're looking at trying to gather information, you want to make sure that you ask the right questions, that you're not being very vague. Because if you spend so much time and effort doing something, you want to make sure that you get your answers and not, you know, oh yeah, maybe, okay, no, I'm not sure. Or you don't want an answer, a questionnaire or a survey full of don't know, or no. So you actually want some answers, which is why you want to not ask generalization questions or ask people to estimate things. You want to ask specific questions. So examples of this is, what is the annual per capita expenditure on groceries in your household? So if somebody asked me what my expenses on groceries for my household is, it'd probably take me really long to find out, and I'd probably give like a basic ballpark estimated figure. So I wouldn't be able to tell you a particular thing. I'd estimate it. And then instead of that, the correct way you should ask is, what is the monthly or the weekly expenditure on groceries in your household? And then you could also put how many members are there in your household. So, for example, if somebody would say, I spend around about £190 a week on groceries in my house. And then you'd be like, oh, okay, so they spend £190 per week. But then you want to know how many people are in that family. So if it's a family of 2 that are spending £190 a week, it might be quite a high expenditure. But if it's a family of 5 that's spending that amount of money, then you know exactly, oh, right, this is why this is. So you've got a very nice focused answer. So we've just got a couple more slides and then we'll be done. So don't ask dual statements, so positives and negatives. So questions in the form of statements should be worded both positively and negatively. So we've got to have determine the order of questions. Now, when we come to this is quite important actually. You don't want to start off a questionnaire with really difficult questions on the top because that will put somebody off. You really want to ease somebody in to having the basic information. Now, this even applies for when you're filling out application forms or any type of forms that you do, like passport forms, anything that you do. They always start off with simple information that you know. So they'll start off with your name, your gender, your date of birth, your address, and then they'll go on to the next page if you're on a passport form, and they'll start asking you, do you already have a passport? What is your passport number? You know, maybe if you're young, if you're filling out for the child, what is the parent's details for this child? What's the passport number for the parent? And then it goes on in that. So it leads itself from simple to medium to harder questions. Now, if you start off a questionnaire with hard questions at the top, you're going to have people losing interest. They're going to look at the first question and they're going to say, no, this is too difficult. I don't want to do it. So if you have opening questions at the top, which are simple and non-threatening and easy to answer, you'll get people to actually fill in those forms. Because by the time they get halfway through, they're going to say, oh, we've done it now. There's only a couple of questions left. So as a general guideline, just put basic information on there. So like I was saying, name, address, if you need it, and so on. And then your difficult questions or sensitive questions or embarrassing questions should be placed towards the end, so in the last couple of things. But again, remember, we should try not to be asking about sensitive information or embarrassing information. Now, this really depends on what type of research you're doing. You might want to do a research on women products. Now, I know there's a national initiative that's happening at the moment where the government is supplying year 6 children in year 6, girls in year 6, and also the girls throughout high school with period products, so that there's a lot of girls were missing out on classes because during that time of the month because they didn't have access to the correct period product. So obviously they weren't able to attend school properly. Now what they're doing is they want to make sure that there's an initiative in place where school is handing out products to young girls. So if you're asking about questions, if your project is based on that type of question, that type of research, then obviously you're going to be asking sensitive information, but you should form it in a nice way so you're not embarrassing someone. So the whole point was sometimes you do need to ask sensitive information. And then the next parts are just we're going over what sort of layout we should do and so on. Now, we would have done a quiz, but my link to the quiz isn't working. So I'll have a look at that and see when you click on it, it just won't work. So it was just going to be about what primary data is, what secondary data is, and so on. Yeah, see, it wasn't working, so we've not gone into that. So how is everybody with this? Have you got any questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, can I ask you? So basically for this task, for what we're doing is research about the situation when you need to like ask questions, particularly like primary and secondary. They have to be everything in one.
So in this question, you're going to tell me now for 2.1, you're not actually doing any research for this section right now. You're going to be researching in the LO4. So in a couple of days, I'll tell you what you need to do. But for this question now, for 2.1, I just want you to describe the different primary research methods. So tell me about questionnaires, tell me about interviews, so tell me about focus groups, so include all of that. So you'd put out, so primary data is, primary research is conducted through questionnaire, surveys, phone conversations, interviews, focus groups, and then tell me what is this for. So this is to gain fresh information about a particular topic or particular research. So you're just explaining, so you're describing what primary research is. For 2.2, you're going to tell me what secondary research is. So this is going to be a nice brief answer because it just says outline. So you're just going to outline it, and you're going to say secondary research is research that has already been done by different people and is available. It's not focused on what you might need, but it's got generalized information. Secondary research is textbooks, encyclopedias, dictionaries, newspapers, articles, books, magazines, the internet. So you're outlining exactly what that is. Now, when you get into 2D1, what I want you to do here, and again, remember, I will explain this very clearly when we go on to assignment day. So here, for 2D1 is analyze examples which are good primary and secondary research. So for one example, you could choose a topic, which is very simple. You could say, I have conducted primary research, include an example of what you did. So include a small questionnaire in it and say, this is how I would conduct research into the effect of COVID-19 on nurses within the NHS. And then you can have a little questionnaire there with a few questions, and then tell me what that is that you've done, why you've asked those questions. And then also go on the internet and do a bit of a research and, copy and paste an image of that research that you found into your work, and then tell me what that is. Analyze it. Is this good? Is it bad? Do you agree with it? Do you think this information is necessary? So this little section isn't that difficult to answer, just that we've gone into a lot of detail on what primary and secondary research is, because you will be conducting a research for this later on within starting at LO4. But again, don't worry, I will highlight everything properly when we do assignment day, because remember, we have a PowerPoint that I've got set out, and I'll give you proper examples and things within that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody got any other? Yes?
Can I ask a question, please?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, in this template, where do you type in? Because there's not a space to type in, just like the other template I got.
Oh, do you mean in the workbook?
Yeah.
Let's see. Because we've got a workbook for a few of these. We don't actually have, what I normally do is I ask for you to put everything onto a Word document. So we do have a couple of workbooks on some of these, but with this one, I normally ask that you just type things out on a Word document. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So we don't have one for a person. Yeah, fantastic.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Hi,
Can you send it to us? Can you send the Word document?
Oh, the Word is just the Word.
You just need to go to your Word.
Like this here. Do you know where my cursor is now?
Yeah.
Just click on your Word. You know, like, because I know you've done some workbooks as well. So let me just, yeah, you can. Let me grab this. Now, what I've done is, if you want to go on the workbook, click it. Click on here. This is the best way to say it. I'm just going to turn the recording off so it's not